Hi, Shepherd's Pie. Greetings from the Philippines. I'm back for a coffee and a chat. I want to have a little talk today about an old mate of mine in Thailand. A very strange fish. The reason I'm going to tell you about him is he was a textbook example of everything you shouldn't do in Thailand. From an expat point of view, he broke every rule in the book. He was literally, in the short time I knew him, he was like watching a car crash in slow motion. The bloke was a total disaster. But he was a nice fella. Not the sharpest tool in the box, as you will find out when I tell you the story about him. But you just couldn't help him. You know, and people tried to talk sense into him, but he made mistake after mistake after mistake. And God knows what's happened to him now, God bless him. As I say, I'm going to change his name to Gary. I have mentioned him in previous videos by his real name, but I don't see the point of embarrassing him. And I'm not going to mention the name of the hotel bar that he ended up buying, because again, I don't want to dig him out. I just hope people will learn from his mistakes and not make the same ones if you move into Thailand. Particularly if you're planning on living in Pattaya or Bangkok, around one of the red light districts. Because if that's your bag, my God, you could learn from Gary, because he did everything wrong. But as I say, he's a very extreme example. I've met lots of expats who've made one or two mistakes. I've never made anyone like Gary who made every mistake. But there you go. So what was Gary's story? Well, I met Gary when I first went to Thailand. First time I went to Thailand, I met him. He used to drink in a bar in Pattaya where I first met Kevin. Again, I've talked about Kevin in previous videos. In the Easy Bar, just off Walking Street. I met him there. A nice fella. He was living the time of his life. He had just taken early retirement from the police. He wasn't actually a copper. He was civilian staff. But he had a number of health issues. I'm pretty sure that's how he got the job, through equality and diversity, because he had a number of issues and he wasn't particularly sharp, as I say. So I think that's how he got the job in the first place. But he wasn't a great looking man, let's say it that way. He was, shall we say, I don't know, what's a nice way to say it? He just wasn't a very good looking man. There you go. So I doubt he ever did very well in terms of girlfriends and things like that in the UK, which is why I think he'd started coming to Thailand. But he'd come to Thailand over several years, done the sex tourist things, had a whale of a time, and he decided as soon as he got his early retirement, he'd take it and he'd move to Thailand. And he was living in Jomtien when I knew him. Well, from the point I met him, things went downhill very rapidly for Gary, unfortunately. But as I say, he was an architect of his own downfall. There was nothing you could do to help him. If there was a mistake to make, he would make it. So the first one was shortly after I met him, he got himself a girlfriend. But when I say he got himself a girlfriend, he bought her out of a bar. In the sense that he paid the bar, I think it was like £1,500 or something, to free her up to come and live with him. And he was paying her quite a heavy sum to be his girlfriend. Not a very smart move. And because it wasn't a smart move, a few of the expats he knew decided to get involved, because they told him he should never have bought her out of the bar. Which is fair play, because he was taken for a ride by the bar owner. Again, I've spoken about the bar owner before. He was a mate of mine. I'm not going to make any moral judgments on the transaction, but he's in no place to buy someone out of a bar. I mean, I'm sure they split the money between them, but I mean, if Barry wanted her to be his girlfriend, he could have just said, "Jack, your job in and come and move in with me," but he didn't. So there you go. And he ended up paying her. He was paying her to be his girlfriend, and they would walk around holding hands and do girlfriend, boyfriend things and come to the bar, and he was happy. Except it wasn't real. But sadly, he convinced himself that it was. And a few of the people who drank in the bar, a few friends of his, had a word in his ear, told him he'd been taken for a mug by the bar and he shouldn't have done this and he was paying her too much and he should do this and should do that. And like a fool, he listened. So he asked for his money back from the bar and he got told where to go. So he fell out with the bar owners and he told the girl that he was going to start paying her less. So she left, which broke his heart because she wasn't really his girlfriend. But he couldn't grasp that fact. So in the end, he ended up paying her more to come back and move in with him, more than he was paying in the first place. But then after a couple of months, she got so bored of him, she decided the money weren't enough and went back to the bar. I suspect it was in high season, that's probably why she left. He probably looked after her during low season. But I warned him, I told him, when he said he was trying to get her back. I was like, Gary, why are you doing this? You know, take your time and find a real girlfriend. But he didn't. And she left him, and it broke his heart, and he went on a downward spiral. And he ended up paying for another girlfriend, a similar arrangement. And a couple of months down the line, same thing happened to him again. She broke his heart, left him, went to work back in a bar. So there you go. That was his first mistake. Don't buy people out of bars. I'm not saying you can't have relationships with bar girls. I know a few people who married bar girls and been happily married for like 10, 15 years. I'm saying it's not a good start to the relationship when you're buying them out of the bar and you're paying them to be your girlfriend. But each to their own. Works for some people. Wouldn't work for me. And it definitely wasn't working for him. The next mistake he made. Again, I've spoken about him on other channels and I've mentioned him previously in a video about scammers and con men. Dave. I'll put a link to his video in case you're interested at the end of this one. Yeah, he got scammed. He got involved with a con man called Dave and invested money in an expat business, thought he was buying gold and silver and precious metals, and he wasn't. The money was all going into Dave's pocket and he took into the cleaners. Not for a vast sum, I think it was a few £1,000s, but there was mistake number 2. Don't get involved in investments with expats unless you know them incredibly well and you know what you're doing and you're doing it all, you know, by the book. Don't get involved with an expat, you know, expats you meet in places like Pattaya and that. You know, it's invariably a scam. And it was. But he fell for it, hook, line and sinker, as did his friend John. And a couple of other people I've heard since. But anyway, Dave got his comeuppance. He ended up dying. He got stabbed. But again, that's a different story. We're talking about Gary now. So by this stage, I had moved up to the mountains. I wasn't living in Pattaya anymore. I was only in Jomtien for the first 6 months. So Gary and our paths didn't cross for a while. But I heard through the grapevine that he had bought a hotel in Jomtien. So I thought, you know, next time I go back to Pattaya, because I used to go back there to do my visa runs in the early days, because you could go to, there's a couple of companies that operated out of Pattaya, where you could, I keep saying Pattaya, it's Pattaya, anyway, and Pattaya, anyway, it doesn't matter, Pattaya, that you could get visa runs over the Cambodian border. They'd take you over in the morning, you'd walk across the border, you get your visa stamped, come back in again, you were good to go for a month, and then you could extend again at your local immigration office. So I used to do that, and I spent a couple of days in Jomtien, see some of my old friends. So the first thing I did when I went back this time was I contacted Gary, said I was going to stay in his hotel. As soon as I'd heard he bought a hotel, I thought, because I'd heard that when I was up in Petra, I thought, oh God, what does he know about hotels? What does he know about bars? Nothing is the answer. He had no experience, but, you know, there you go, nothing to do with me. So I got down there, checks into the hotel. The woman at the counter says to me, I could see him sitting at the bar, he's knocking back drinks. all by himself, not a single customer, and it was a bigger place, a lot bigger than I expected. It was, I think it was Soi 3 or Soi 4 on in Jomtien. It was only literally about 50 metres from the beach, and it was a bigger place. It was like a, I'm not going to say the name of the place, I don't want to embarrass him, but it had like a nice big bar area, and it had a few, I think it had 3 floors to it, and it was on the corner, good spot, good location. And I thought, my God, this must have cost him a few quid. But I get in there, the first thing that the woman said to me behind the counter was, do you want a room with a balcony, or do you not want a balcony? And I said, I'll have a balcony. I said, no, wait a minute. Hold that thought. I'll go and have a word with Barry. Ask him which the best room is. We're mates, he'll sort me out of a good room. Because she didn't know that I knew Gary. So I go over to the bar. I see him sat there. I say hello, a little chat. I said, Gary, which are the best rooms to have? The rooms with balconies, or the rooms with out balconies? Which he says to me, none of the rooms have got balconies. So I'm like, well, why has she just said that the rooms have got balconies? And he said, oh, they just, she doesn't know what she's doing. Her English doesn't speak she doesn't speak very good English. So I said, okay, fine, fair enough. So I asked her in Thai if there were balconies or not. And she said, yeah, there are balconies on the top floor. So I'm sitting there thinking, what the hell's going on here? So I says to her, okay, I'll have a balcony. Anyway, I didn't go up to the room then. I sat there and I had a drink with Gary at the bar. And all he proceeded, I said, you don't have many customers in here, do you, mate? How you doing? And he was like, oh, we're doing all right, you know, I know how to run a bar, you know, I talk to the customers, I listen, you know, I run a bar much better than Kevin could, because he had a big thing against Kevin after, you know, he'd really fallen out with him over this girl that he brought out the bar. Now, Kevin had had a bar for close to 20 years. He knew what he was doing when it came to a bar. But Barry, obviously watching him, thought that the only thing you needed to do to run a bar was basically sit in the bar and drink away the profits. So anyway, I'm chatting away to him. I'm saying to him, like, you know, this is a bigger place than I thought it was. Throwing a few ideas, how we can maybe get it a bit busier, what location wasn't out. He wasn't interested in anything. All he was interested in was telling me how well he run his business and how this and that, you know, and, you know, etc., etc. Typical Gary. So I thought, okay, fine. Finished my beer, so I'm going to go upstairs, get the room sorted out. Go upstairs, let myself in. I'm on the top floor, walk in the room. What's the first thing I see? I've got a balcony. So I'm thinking, what the hell's going on here? And it was a nice balcony, a nice big balcony. Wasn't sea view or anything, just looked down onto the soy below, but it was nice to have a balcony. I used to smoke in those days, so it was nice to have a little cigarette outside on the balcony. Came downstairs later on. Barry's sitting in the bar, he hasn't moved, so he's been there since about 8 o'clock in the morning. Apparently he used to go in and have 2 coffees and that was it, he'd just drink for the whole day. About 2 o'clock he'd go for a walk around some of the other bars for an hour and then come back and just plop himself on the bar again. I says to Barry, I says, I thought you said none of the rooms in the hotel had balconies. And he said, they don't. I said, I'm in the top floor and I've got a balcony. He says, oh, I've never been to the 3rd floor. That's a true story. He had never been to the 3rd floor of his hotel. Yet, he'd spent half an hour telling me how hands-on he was and how well he was running his business. I'm looking at him thinking, this bloke's unreal. So I said, why haven't you been up to the top floor? He says, my wife takes care of it, or my girlfriend takes care of it, that she runs it, she runs the hotel. So I'm like, well, how many people have you got staying in here now? He said, I'll find out. And he asked them all behind the counter. She said, 2, me and someone else. So how many rooms you got? I think he had like 12 or something like that. I'm like, well, that can't be good, can it? If you've got those, you know. But I'm sitting there thinking, how does he not know how many people he's got staying? You know, if you think if you're sat at the bar, that would be like a typical conversation. So anyway, I said to him, how did you end up getting into the hotel business? And he said, what happened? He had gone down to Vang Chang on a pub crawl Bang Chang's a town which is like, oh, I can't remember how far, it's 45 minutes an hour away, might be further. But there's a few places in town we do, and it was a naughty place. Never actually been there, but I've been told about it. It's like a really full-on red light district street, and it's I think it's like a Soy 6, but a lot of people who've been there told me that it was like Pattaya used to be 10, 15 years ago. It's more risque because I think Pattaya has like calmed down a bit in what goes on there in terms of the bar girls. Now, so a lot of the sex tourists and expats used to go down to Bang Chang for like these pub crawls on the minibuses. And he'd gone down there one day on a bar crawl, and he'd gone in there, and he got talking to this bar girl, and he had done something to upset her, and he didn't know what, but she had caused a fuss. So the mama song had come over and had a go at him and got talking to him, and he had been very apologetic because he hadn't realised what had happened. So the mama song, I must have realised that he wasn't the sharpest tool in the box, because she asked him if he got a girlfriend, you know, what he was doing, etc. And he told her he didn't, he was living by himself and things. So she went upstairs to the place and said, told him I'll be back. Came down 15 minutes later with her bags and everything packed, and told him she was moving in with him. And she just moved back with him. She'd gone back on the minibus with him. And that was it. She'd moved in with him the next day. Hadn't asked. He hadn't invited her. But that was it. And a week after that, she'd found the hotel, and that was it. They'd taken out a lease on it. So I'm like, well, did it cost you a lot? I mean, how did you pay for it? For the key money and things. And what he'd done? He had sold his house in the UK to finance buying the hotel. So that was his passive income. You know, that was his backup fund. That was his investment for the future to top up, you know, his lifestyle, cover emergencies in Thailand. All gone. Invested it into a business he knew nothing about. Now later that night I met his wife and his girlfriend. And I think she's his wife now, that's why I keep calling his wife. And she was a piece of work. She was, I tell you. I've never met. See, the strange thing was, she liked me, or seemed to like me. I think it's because I spoke a bit of Thai, and the first night I met her, I bought her a drink, or a couple of nights. It was so quiet, I bought her a drink, and she didn't get bought many drinks because that bar was dying on its arse. He had a few girls that worked there, but they didn't get paid anything. They just got their free accommodation. They weren't happy. They were constantly complaining about how they were treated there to me and anyone else who would go in the bar. So of course people didn't go in the bar because they didn't want to hear the girls moaning. And Gary was quite a popular guy. He used to play for like a couple of pool teams and things, so he had quite a few friends. And I'd see some of them around, and I'd say to them, like, you know, I haven't seen you, you know, do you ever go to Gary's place? Like, no, don't go there because of the girlfriend. Didn't like her. She was a right miserable sort. And she was miserable and rude to people. That's what I'm saying. I think she must have liked me, or it was an act, because she was always like, hello, you know, to me, and she'd talk for a couple of minutes and that. Other people would come in the bar, she'd be like, you know, wouldn't even look up, you know, when she just like say the girl serve them. You know, worst mama son in the world, if that's what you want to call her. But that was that. And for about 6 months to a year, can't remember exactly, I'd always go back there and stay with Gary's place, you know, just to give him a bit of business. But the last couple of times I went down there, she wasn't there. She'd gone. Like there's always a family crisis. She'd gone off here or she'd gone off there. Someone was sick and he was waiting for her to come back. And he just sat at the bar with 2 or 3 bored bar girls just sat sloped over the counter. I mean, the place was dying to death. There was no one staying there. And each time I try and give him a pep talk, why don't you do this? Because it wasn't the greatest place in terms of the rooms and everything were okay. But the location, I mean, they're nothing special, but the location was good. It was a good location. And it was quite cheap. You know, I was saying to him, why don't you try and get some monthly rentals in? That's what you need. You need to, like, do discounted rates. I said that before. Because, you know, he was about 1,000 baht a night, which is, or under that, 895 baht. And it's going back a few years, which is good value for a hotel for a night in Jomtien. particularly that location. But it's not good value if you're living over there, you know, for a month, because you can get like places to rent easily, you know, like apartments now for 8,000 a month. So you're not going to pay 30,000 to live in a place like this, but it was a good location. And now I'm saying him drop the price down. You know, you could fill people up that way, you know. But he'd say, "Oh, that's a good idea. I'd like to do that." But then he'd talk to her and she'd say, "No, can't do it." So he wouldn't do it. It's like he wasn't advertising on anything. He wasn't using hotels.com or what. He was relying on footfall. Well, there never was any footfall. You know, and a couple of times I mentioned that to him. I said, "Why don't you try that? You know, no one can find you, Gary. You know, get yourself on a goad or whatever." And he'd be like, no, she's, okay, good idea, we'll do that. Oh, no, she doesn't want to. They charge a fee. You know, well, if they charge you 10%, 10% of something is better than 10% of nothing, isn't it? Anyway, couldn't really do anything with him. But, you know, there you go. That was that. But then COVID hit. So, of course, the business went under. He lost it. Now, even if he had been running it very well, even if he'd known what he was doing, even if he'd been hands-on, even if he'd put loads of work into it, even if it had been successful, COVID may well have done for him. I mean, COVID did for most of the bars and that in Jomtien and Pattaya. It was a long period. You know, you couldn't, you know, you couldn't script for that. So what did he do? Now, bear in mind, he had sold his house with the plan of keeping half of it in the bank and used half of it to get the hotel for the key money or whatever. And he'd done a lot of refurbishment. He'd redone things around, he'd done the bar up and that. Why he'd spent all that money doing up a bar, you know, and refurbishing a place like that is beyond me. Because, you know, if you're into that kind of thing in Pattaya, you know, it's the girls that attract the people. No one cares really what the surroundings are like. Not in Jomtien. It's all about how cheap the beer is and how friendly the girls are. You know, there's no point. It's different if you're in Walking Street or somewhere like that. But it wasted money refurbishing this place and getting plush leather seats and bar stools and tiles and things. But anyway, he'd done it. So he lost it all. So I've not seen him again since. I never went back there during COVID for obvious reasons. I was stuck in the UK, and I just, you know, lost contact with him because, you know, and I've never been back since. But I had a couple of friends who knew him, who I'm in contact with. So what did he do? When the hotel failed, he moved back to her village, bought land and built a house. 3 years in, living in Thailand. I have no idea how that ended up. I can guarantee you it failed. You know, I would be totally amazed if they are still together. I am supremely confident. I hope I'm wrong, but I am supremely confident. He built that house, put it all in her name, and she told him to do a runner. Where he is now, I do not know. He used to be active on Facebook. He's not active on Facebook now, and I don't really keep in touch with any of the people who I used to know who knew him. I suppose I can message him and find out, but I'd like to think things worked out for him. I would like to think I was wrong. You know, I'm wrong in my conclusions and it all worked out well. But I tell you, what a piece of work. You couldn't script it, could you? He made every mistake in the book. And he was in such a strong position when he moved there. You know, he had rental property, passive income, a fair pension. Could have lived the life he was living. Had a nice little apartment, gone out, drunk away to his heart's content, you know, a couple of nights a week with bar girls, whatever he wanted to do. But he didn't. He blew it. He decided he needed a girlfriend. Bought one out of bar. He invested in dodgy businesses and got scammed. He rushed into a relationship. I keep saying don't rush into relationships. His must be the quickest I've ever heard. You know, to meet someone in a bar and within 15 minutes they've gone up and got their bags and that and brought them down and they've got on the bus. I mean, that's just something else. He rushed into a relationship. He bought a business he knew nothing about. And ultimately, he bought land and built a house. You know, what can you say? Sadly, he deserves everything that happened to him. I wish it hadn't worked out that way. He was a nice guy. And he's an extreme example. You know, you don't get many Barrys to the pound. Because, yeah, he did everything wrong. God knows where he is now. I bet all his money from his house has gone. He's probably struggling for cash, to be honest with you, because he was young. So he had his police pension. He won't have his state pension yet. Whether he ended up back in the UK, I don't know. I suspect he probably has done, because he was one of these guys, if he's still around, was doing quite a lot on Facebook. So I kind of think, right or wrong, he's probably embarrassed and back in the UK, and that's why he doesn't post much. Or he's changed his profile name, I don't know. But either way, it was, as I say, it was like watching a car crash in slow motion. He did everything wrong. But there you go. You can't help some people. And whenever you spoke to him, he seemed happy. You know, he was happy in his relationship until he wasn't. He was breaking down in tears. He was happy running the business until it failed. He was happy, you know, being with her, even though he lost all his friends because of her. And she kept pissing off, taking money on these family emergencies, which he never really knew about. Anyway, I've gone on. Wherever he is, I wish him well. If you're watching this video and you live in Thailand, or you live in Pattaya, or you're thinking of moving over there, or Angeles City in the Philippines where we are, don't make the mistakes he did. You know, be a wise monkey, and don't rush into things. Don't invest in businesses you know nothing about. Don't buy a house, buy land, build houses and things until you're 100% certain that's the thing to do. There you go. Anyway, going round in circles now. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you did, smash the like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, it would be fantastic if you did. Whether you do, whether you don't, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, stay safe, be lucky.